Hey there, tarot friends. Welcome to my Airbnb here in Taos, New Mexico. It is a tiny house, so you gotta watch me sitting in the kitchen. There's really not much I can do about it. But today I wanted to talk about tarot questions to ask for this fabulous February Divination Challenge. So I wanted to go over how we're going to ask questions, what kind of questions we're going to ask, not because I want to be a Nazi and control the situation, but I want everyone to get good experimental results on this challenge and learn a lot about tarot too. So let me switch to the screen share, and we will, I got to move my thing over here. Oh, I didn't have it set up. Let me set it up. Okay, so here are the Divination Challenge questions. And I just want to say up front that asking good, clear questions is like 50% of what you need for an accurate reading. That's a mistake I see a lot of people make. I know I make a mistake. That mistake, sometimes you get excited and you're like, and you start laying cards before you really have a clear question. And then once you lay the cards, you're already confused because you didn't ask a clear question. So I think with this Divination Challenge, I mean, it's all about the question, because we're gonna test it and see if we can actually predict the future with our questions. So you need to spend time on the questions. So what you need to do is get a pool of questions now. We're gonna do these readings every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the month of February. So that ends up being 12. So come up with 10 to 15 questions and just have them ready. So that way when when it's time to do a reading day, you're not like, oh, I'm in a hurry and I'm trying to do this, I'm trying that, I can't really think of anything to ask. Have your pool ready so that way you can ask something and do your reading real quick, write it down, and move on. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. Like, it's okay to ask just really mundane, kind of everyday questions. That's perfectly acceptable. So, but let's go through the rules a little bit. And once again, like I said, I'm not writing this out so I can be some kind of card Nazi and be like, you have to have, It's just to help us with this challenge. We need a little structure. We need a little rule. So, the question can be about an event in the future. That's kind of logical. That's what we're trying to do here. But we need to be able to verify it within the month of February. So don't ask something that's not going to come to fruition or have a result or have something that you can measure outside of the month of February. Because we want to get our results in fast and be able to evaluate and move on. Just for the sake of this challenge, let's leave out questions from the past. You can ask a tarot about the past. A lot of times the past will come up, but we're just going to leave the past out because you probably already know the information, or it can't be verified because it's something that happened in the past and the situation is gone, so you can't really verify it. Like, it's like, who shot Kennedy? We can't ever really verify that information. We have some ideas, but we don't know that for sure. Yes, no questions are okay. But your question does not have to be a yes, no question. So I have a couple examples here. Example number one is, will I get a raise in the month of February? That is a good question. Will Joe ask me to marry him this month? Those are good questions. Those are quantifiable. They're going to happen in February. Yes, it either happened or it didn't. An unusable question example is, how did my aunt die? Okay, because like I said, once again, it's kind of like the who shot Kennedy thing. We really can't verify that one way or the other. And then another unusable question example would be, will I ever get married? Because there's no time frame on that. We can't deal with it. So you got to keep it to, will Joe ask me to marry him this month? That's a usable question. Okay, the question can be asking for descriptive or quantitative information about a person or a situation. And once again, it has to be verified within the month of February. So you can ask, how will my son do on the history test next week? So yes, he's going to get a score. We can get a range of scoring. We can put that in the spread. We can verify that. Now, an unusable question example is, how does Tony really feel about me? You can totally ask that with tarot cards. I'm not saying you can't, but in this challenge, we really can't verify it. We could ask Tony, but are we really getting this true story? That's probably why you're asking the question, because you can't get that information out of him anyway. So anyway, just I don't want to ramble on about that, but that, for the purposes of this divination challenge, not acceptable question. The question can definitely be about timing, as long as it's in the month of February. So, example, will I hear about the job next week? Or when will I hear back about the job? You can phrase it either way. I'm going to be posting, like I said, I'm going to be posting, little tips and stuff, how to do your spreads and stuff to get answers as we go along. But timing questions are great. So you might want to focus on timing questions, anything you might have coming up in the month of February. And like I said, it's okay to ask about really mundane stuff. I think I have some examples here. Here on your tip, says, go ahead and ask questions about very mundane matters that you don't have a lot of emotional investment in. These can even be things that you're pretty certain will or won't happen. So it's like, will so-and-so show up at work today? Will the mail come today? Like questions like that, that's okay. You can sprinkle those in there. And, like I said, if you're hard-pressed for a question one day or whatever and you're in a hurry, just do something like that. Is so-and-so going to wear a red shirt today? Or describe what so-and-so is wearing. See what happens with those kind of questions. And that's why tip number 2, I say try to stretch your muscles and surprise yourself with questions you normally wouldn't ask. So just, when you're going through your questions, if you think of something and you're like, oh, well, that's kind of off the wall or something, just try it. See what happens. Ask a variety of questions. That way you can figure out which ones you're already good at and which ones that you need to work on. So I have several example questions, and I'm going to put this whole thing is going to be in the description, so you can refer back to it. And if you're on the free online tarot card list, I'm going to send it out. So, and that link will also be in the description to join the class, the free online tarot class. But anyway, examples: will Bob be at work today? Describe today's weather. What obstacles will I face going to the grocery store? Like, that's a mundane question. With the job application, that's probably a little more your emotional investment there. Getting my computer fixed, planting the garden, whatever you want to make it, whatever's coming up, whatever is front and center for you, you can use. What pleasant surprises in store for me this month? Like, that's an example of a question that I normally wouldn't ask. Because I don't think I describe myself as optimistic, generally. So I wouldn't ask that question. But hey, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it this month to see what comes up. How many times will the phone ring today? Okay, and so like I said, we're gonna work through this and talk about how are we gonna do these number questions and stuff like that. So don't worry about that. If you're not, well, how the heck do I read that? We'll get to that later. Who will call me today? That's another. So you can see, with a lot of these subjects, there are several questions that you can pull off from it just around the phone ringing. Now, if you're someone that the phone rings, you get 50 freaking phone calls a day or 30, maybe that's not the best question for you. How many times will the phone ring or who will call me? Because there's too much activity there. But if you're somebody where the phone doesn't ring too much, maybe this is a good question for you. What will Jennifer be wearing today? Describe Jennifer's mood today. Now, describing the mood one gets into a little bit of a gray area with the being able to verify. So I'm going to say, yes, you can use those kind of questions, and it's just going to be from your subjective viewpoint. You're not going to have to go verify with Jennifer, hey, you looked like you were grumpy today. Were you grumpy today? You're just going to be I know Jennifer, and from my subjective viewpoint, yes, she seemed grumpy today. Or yes, she seemed totally normal like she always is, or whatever. But like I said, that one gets in a little gray area, but you might want to try it. And then once again, like I said, these timing questions with start dates or completion dates, those are perfect for this challenge. So go ahead, get your question bank up, get 10 to 15 questions ready to go, because Monday, oh my gosh, that's tomorrow, we have to do our first one. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what your journal might look like before then, but maybe we're not going to get to it. But whatever, get your first question ready, and let's do this February Divination Challenge.